Dragonflight is totally revamping professions in a major way. We've never seen this kind of depth before with professions, and because of that, there's a lot to go over. But don't worry, because I'm going to be breaking down everything you guys need to know so that come Dragonflight, you're ready to jump into professions with confidence and knowing exactly what you need to do to reach your goals with professions in Dragonflight. Alright, so for starters, the biggest change that's coming to professions is quality. What is quality exactly? Well, everything related to professions, from the items you make all the way down to the raw materials required to craft the items, has a quality rating to them. The rank of quality an item will have significant benefits. For example, a lower quality item is going to have lower stats and a lower item level, versus something that's crafted at a higher quality is going to have a higher item level and better stats. Sound confusing? Let me explain. So, raw materials such as ore or herbs will have 3 levels of quality to them, while crafted or finished items will have 5 levels of quality. So we understand that a higher quality crafted item will have a better item level to it, but what about the raw materials? So higher quality raw materials increase the quality of an item that you're trying to make with that ore. For example, if you're a blacksmith and you're trying to craft a shield, if you use all common ore to make it, the chances are the item is going to be kind of a lower quality. But if you're using tier 3 quality ore, then there's a much better chance that that shield comes out with a higher quality. Of course, using different quality materials is just one piece of the pie, which we'll go over a bit later. In order to get high quality raw materials, you're going to have a high gather skill rating. This rating can go up like normally you do in WoW by just mining or gathering orbs, but there are other ways to increase your skill, like equipping new profession gear. Another thing to note is that there is a difficulty skill number to gathering ore or herbs, and you have to have your skill at that number or higher if you want to gather more rare materials. You now have a quality bar in the UI for your profession, which gives you an idea of what quality item you're going to be crafting, increasing your skill in that profession, equipping profession gear, or adding rare materials as a finishing reagent will also help boost your skill to increase the quality of that item. As I mentioned earlier, each profession will have 3 equipable slots for gear that you equip in the profession UI. For most parts, it seems like each profession can at least make one piece of gear for themselves, but the other 2 slots, you're going to need to reach out to the other professions to have them craft those items, or just buy them off the auction house. It appears to be set up this way so that there's still a reason for other professions to help each other out. You want to make sure that you have the best profession gear equipped, because that gear is going to really help you out and increase your stats and increase your skill level. Part of the new profession system is profession stats. Now, there are stats that you can spec into or get from gear, and these stats are inspiration, which is sort of like crit. It basically gives you a % chance that you will craft an item at a higher skill rating than you currently have. So having a high inspiration skill will make it so that you craft even better quality items. Resourcefulness is helpful by reducing the number of materials you need to craft an item. This can be good if you're trying to mass craft a bunch of stuff and like to save on consumables. Crafting speed is probably the most boring of all the stats, and it's literally just helping you craft things a lot faster. So this is probably going to be handy for, those guys that are trying to mass craft consumables. And then the last one is called multi-craft, which gives you a chance to craft additional items when you're crafting something. Think the potion procs for alchemy and BFA. When you craft 1 potion, there's a chance that you might craft 3 instead of 1. So this stat is going to be really good for consumables. There's also a new feature called Recrafting, which solves a big problem from the past. Rather than crafting 30 of the same item trying to get good stats on the item that you craft, now you can just craft the item at one time, and if the stats aren't the ones you're looking for, you can just recraft that item with fewer materials, basically rerolling the stats on that item. It's just a nice quality of life thing that is pretty awesome. Each profession now has a number of specializations you can choose to pick from. Each specialization will help you focus on a particular style of crafting for your profession. The specialization are essentially a talent tree for your profession. Profession knowledge is a currency that you need to spend points on for your spec tree. There are a number of ways to gain profession knowledge. One way is to craft an item in your profession for the first time. So what this means is basically every time you get a new recipe in your profession, you'll want to craft that item. So that way you can craft everything at least once, and then you'll get the profession knowledge from that. There's also a filter in the UI that basically lets you know what new recipes you haven't crafted yet, so that way you can get the bonus for those. For gathering professions, you have a chance of gaining profession knowledge just by gathering the ore or the herbs. There are also profession daily quests where you can get the knowledge from as well. And on top of that, while you gain profession knowledge, you also gain a thing called artisan metal, which is basically used for high tier crafting. Work orders are a new feature in Dragonflight, which essentially lets you list an item that you want, and then someone with that profession can decide if they want to make it or not. The way it works is that, let's say you want a sword. So you go to the work order NPC, choose that item, and then you put the materials required in there, and then also a tip, and then list it. Then you just sit back and wait for someone to come around and pick up that work order. Then they make the item, and it gets sent to your mail. It's a really awesome system for crafters now, because basically it's going to be a really awesome source of income, and you can just kind of, I imagine you'll be able to just kind of sit on that work order list and just make a bunch of items if you want to. I think it's going to be a really awesome avenue for gold. Finally, I want to go over a few things with the gathering. So for mining, there's going to be 3 new types of ore. There's Triavite, and that's the most common ore. Then we have Draconium, which is uncommon. And then finally we have Kazarite, which is kind of like the rare ore for the game. Kazarite has a super rare spawn and can only spawn in the nodes from Draconium and Triavite spawns. Also, you might encounter what's called empowered nodes, and these are basically the ones you'll find. So you'll find Bloodied, Hardened, Molten, Primal, and Titan Touched. For herbs, we have 4 new types. We've got Hulchenbloom, Saxfrage, Witherbark, and Bubble Poppy. And just like the ore being in power, the herbs can too, and the ones you'll see is Frigid, Windswept, Bloodied, Decayed, and Titan Touched. And the big thing with these empowered nodes is basically they're kind of like moats, where you're going to have an extra kind of like elemental rarity type item that spawns. And then the last thing about nodes is, depending on your spec or specialization with the professions, you can overload a node, which basically has a chance of spawning an ad that you kill, and it's just going to have some more materials. One thing to note about skinning is that if you want a particular type of hide or scales, you need to actually go out and find different animals out in the world to skin. No longer can you just AoE farm a large group of ads and get everything you need. There really isn't a huge change to fishing. Yeah, it does have a new UI similar to the new professions, and there is gear for it, but there's no spec tree for fishing. I hope at some point that they go back and revisit fishing to maybe revamp it in some way. But anyways, what are you guys' thoughts on the professions? Are you guys excited for Dragonflight, and which ones do you plan on using? Also, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.